features. We passed by a very sacred place for the Jews. This is the Wailing Wall, and it's called the Western Wall. It's a place where the Jews read their Talmud, they quote their holy scriptures, and they leave the petitions and prayers into the cracks of the Wailing Wall in hopes that their God, Yahweh, will help them out in their daily life. So Jerusalem's a city with three of the world's major religions, each sharing it as the center of their faith, and they're all trying to get along, and they have a lot of problems because of that, but hopefully in the future they can work out some of their problems and live peacefully. I continue downhill now to the lowest body of water on Earth. It's the Dead Sea. At 1,400 feet below sea level, the Dead Sea is so salty you can swim and float like a cork at the same time. You swim and read a newspaper. And across from the Dead Sea is the hills of Jordan, where Moses saw the Promised Land and vowed that he would someday come and bring his people to the Promised Land. I have ran into some very big problems as I crossed the Sinai Desert. Aside from the dry and hot weather, I was stoned. That is, people threw rocks at me. And I found out the reason they did that was because I didn't wear my shirt. And when you don't wear your shirt in Muslim countries, they might throw rocks at you. And I got stoned quite a few times, and it wasn't very enjoyable. And it broke a spoke on my bicycle. But my journey continued across this hot, dry climate, and time really went backwards. The ancient pyramids, made well over 4,000 years ago, to honor the great pharaohs, so the pharaoh's body could be placed into the pyramid and travel on to the afterworld. The peoples of Egypt of old used to worship the pharaoh as God. He was like a living God. He had a lot of power. Today these just stand as ancient reminders of that old belief. And the Muslims and the Arabs, the Egyptians alongside the Nile River would offer me a cold drink on a real hot, dry afternoon. They were wonderful fellows, pretty cheerful. Arabs are kind of childlike. They like to joke around a lot. It's good to sing, you know. If you can sing, you can always make friends with an Arab. And I find simple little songs and la 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 would make a lot of new friends. We took a big hop then, my bicycle and I, from Egypt to India. We had to go around wars and waters, so now in India, here's a famous tourist site. It's the Taj Mahal. It was made by the Maharaja back in the 15th century as a great Valentine's gift to his beautiful wife. And they say the closer you get, the better it looks, and that's sort of like a beautiful woman, isn't it? Now the real journey in India is the crowds of people. Everywhere there's crowds of people. They look at my blue eyes and blonde hair and my beard, and they were amazed. I was pretty thrilled to be such a novelty all of a sudden. Felt like I was Bob Hope or something like that. Flute playing snake charmer with his king cobra laid out in front of him as a memorable sight. And whenever the trucks blew their horns in India, I had to get off the road. Traveling on a bicycle across India was dangerous. These drivers play a game of chicken. Sometimes they smash headlong into one another. I even saw a dead man laying on the road, so I had to obey the rules here in India, else I might end up like that poor guy that got ran over by a truck. Still on scenes that are really unusual. They have a lot of people in India, so everywhere the crowds have to find their way to get around. I'm sure some of the bus companies in America would like to see their ridership as great as this. Now, as I arrived in Calcutta on a very hot day, the pavement was sticking to my tires and it was kind of slushy beneath me. And I was riding along through this busy streets and honking horns and cows and everything. And this Indian fellow ran up beside me and says, "Can I talk to you?" And I said, "Yeah, go ahead." And he kept running after me and I says, "Please stop, I want to talk to you." And I had this happen so many times, and he chased me some more, and he said, "Please, I want to talk to you." Well, so finally I stopped, and I said, "Yeah, well, what do you want?" And he says, "Can I buy you an ice-cold Coca-Cola?" And I said, "Please, yeah, thank you." It was hard to find Coca-Cola. And he turned out to be a wonderful fellow. His name was Norland, and he was the manager at a YMCA there in Calcutta. And he was so kind and considerate. Now, his best friend was a Hindu, and I was interested in Hinduism, so his best friend took me to a Hindu temple. And it's there that I was introduced to some of the Hindu gods that they worship, like Brahma is the supreme god, and Shiva is the destroyer god, and Vishnu is the creator of the ocean of soul. They have Ganesh, which is like an elephant with a human, and Kali is this goddess of fertility. Many different gods in Hinduism. More importantly, they are one of the oldest religions in the world, and have most of the believers in India are Hindus. So it was a wonderful experience to see some of these places of worship. Now I headed north and said goodbye to Niladri and went up into the mountainous country of Nepal, where I saw these Nepalese men involved in a wedding ceremony. And a wedding ceremony is leading a procession of men with their big copper horns towards the church. But they don't have a church, they have a stupa. And this is a building that is exclusively for Buddhists. And the stupa has prayer wheels along the sides of it and eyes up on top of it. Now, Buddhism is a religion founded after a guy named Buddha. And the Buddha lived 500 years before Jesus did. The Buddha tried to help people worship God and to live truthful and pure lives. Traveling through Nepal, I would sometimes feel like a traveling vaudeville show. I'd have crowds of people gather around and they'd watch my every move. And sometimes you get a little nervous when everybody's watching you, but I felt it was important to, be calm. Let them look. It doesn't hurt. People can look at you, and it's fine. It doesn't hurt. And I could look at them a little bit, and we would share some of this brotherhood, and, I think that for them it was a big thrill, and it was a wonderful treat for me just to have all this popularity all of a sudden. This kind of thing doesn't happen too often to you here in America. Throughout Southeast Asia, it's very common to see a Buddhist temple rising high above a village. Buddhism is the national religion throughout most of Southeast Asia. I'd always carry an extra spare tire up on my front wheel there, because you never know, you get flat tires a lot and tires wear out. And many a time as I traveled through Southeast Asia, I stayed with the Buddhist monks. They were always good fellows. They let me have a cot to sleep on and with some mosquito netting, feed me some fish and rice, let me see their ceremonies, and they especially liked playing country roads on my guitar. That was a real exciting thing for them to do. So I pulled out my guitar and we'd sing a few John Denver songs. That's one of the most popular songs around the world. But I had a problem. They called me Mr. Monkey. If somebody calls you a monkey, you might get pretty irritated at it. But I found out why they called me that. You see, Southeast Asian men don't grow beards and they don't have hairy chests. So they thought that I looked like a monkey. Well, I like monkeys a lot. These monkeys were a lot of fun to play with, and I had a real good time making friends with them. I continued south down through Malaysia till I got to the island of Singapore. And Singapore is a big city where I had a really big problem. I ran out of money. So I had no more money. I went to try to get a job, but they said, "You're a foreigner." I went to the USA Embassy, and they said, "We can't help you. You're not in America. We can't give you any money." So I thought, what am I going to do? How am I going to make some money? Well, I sat back and thought. I thought about that gift that was given to me by those Greeks. Maybe if I could go out into the streets of Singapore and try my luck, maybe I could sing a few songs and panhandle. So I stood out on the street corner singing songs, and after the first hour, I made $75. After a month of staying there, I made over $2,000. So I bought myself an airline ticket that would take me hopping my way through a